We are going to call to order at 6:20 p.m. I'd like to welcome the City of Ocoee Human Relations Diversity Board to our session on From Service to Community, Reflecting Acting Learning. This session will be available on the City of Ocoee's YouTube channel and as a resource to the community. So with that, I'd like to welcome our guest speakers from UCF, Kavita Sau and Mike Kepner, to lead us in this session. I do need to do a quick roll call. So, Member Singh. Here. Bill.
President.
Oh, why, thank you. I didn't remember everyone's last name. I'm sorry. Robert Henderson. Here. Jason Mellon. Here. And Kelly Beck here. Perfect. All right, with that, I will turn it over to our guest speakers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, hi. Thanks for bringing us back.
Thanks for being here.
Of course, this is, we won't tell everybody, but one of my favorite places to go. Y'all know this. Before we get started, y'all know who I am, so I won't go into that, but I will have Mike introduce himself, and we'll go from there. All yours, Mikey.
But I don't know who you are. Thank you all for letting us come out tonight. It is a huge honor and pleasure to come out and talk about From Service to Community. My name is Mike Kepner. I'm the current director for the Office of Military and Veteran Student Success at the University of Central Florida. I've been doing that now for just over 3 years. In 2016, I retired from the U.S. Army after 23 years. Well, thank you for yours, sir. I keep riding the Blackhawks. You did a great job. 23 years in the Army. 2016, made a decision to retire. It was time. We had done 4 combat deployments to Iraq, and my son at the time was in 3rd grade. And he's like, Dad, it's time to go. So whatever 5-year plan you think you're developing, because I still had more military time left, I was still ready to go on. He was like, no, it's time to go. I have done many things throughout the military career. I was a chemical officer by branch, but I didn't do a lot of that. I did mostly operational stuff. Incredible time. I was a company commander during the invasion of Iraq, and I finished up as the chief of operations for United States Forces Iraq, who closed the country down. Literally, I am the guy who turned off the light on the USFI Joint Operations Center when the last vehicle crossed the border from Iraq into Kuwait. Vehicle came across.
That to me deserves a name.
Oh, thank you, sir. It was, people often ask me about what was the highlight of the career. And I always think back to December 19th, 2011. Watching that last vehicle come across, General Austin welcoming that crew as they came around the MRAP, and he welcomed them into Kuwait. His aide giving me the phone call the minute everyone was safe, waiting for the last helicopter to come out of the Iraqi airspace, and calling the CENTCOM chief of operations, say, sir, the battle's yours, and sending the final email. This is USFI CHOP signing off. Adios, goodbye, and good luck. And we walked out the door and turned off the light. Captain Mike Simonelli, my battle captain, tried to reach around my hand and turn it off in front of me, and I had to smack him and say, no, buddy, that's mine. But it was pretty cool. But 23 years, I had a blast. Fort Bragg, Fort Stewart, Germany, and a lot of time in the desert. So it's a complete honor to be here. We retired down here in 2016. Did not plan to be in Central Florida until I hit 60. That was the real plan. I retired, had the job with FEMA in D.C., and realized I hated D.C. Did not want to deploy with FEMA anymore. So we left and came down here early. And we fell in love, and we just were having a blast. So it's an honor to be here tonight, talk a little bit about service to community and what that looks like, and kind of some tips and tricks on how to bring veterans into a community space the right way, especially in today's world, where there's a lot of divided nature in what we do. But with that, that's me.
Mike, quick question. Why'd you choose Central Florida?
In 2009, I had just come back from my 3rd deployment to Iraq. My son was born in October of 2007. January of 2008, 90 days later, I deployed to Iraq for a 15-month deployment. So when I left, he was drinking from a bottle. I mean, that was feeding the baby. When I came home, he was ordering chicken nuggets at the McDonald's drive-thru and running around like a wild kid. My wife told me, I just got home, we just finished our reintegration, just started R&R leave. And my wife had told me, hey, he loves Mickey Mouse. He loves Mickey's Clubhouse. And I was like, whatever. He's 15 months old. The kid does not know what he likes. Let her sleep in one day. We go downstairs. We're having breakfast. The day Mickey Mouse Clubhouse came on, that kid's face lit up like I'd never seen in my life. I immediately called Shades of Green, booked a hotel room, bought Disney World tickets, went upstairs, told the wife to pack a bag. We were leaving the next day to go to Disney. And that started a love affair with the mouse. And that's the reason we retired to Central Florida. Because when you walk through the gates at the Magic Kingdom on Main Street, USA, everything fell away. Every deployment, every emotional stress, every trigger just melted. And I was in the magic on Main Street. And we just fell in love with it. And that's why we're here today. That's why I'll probably leave here tonight and go catch the fireworks.
Thank you, Mike.
I think there's Mickey's Not So Scary tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Schedule that one.
Oh, you're right. It's Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah. What were some of the biggest adjustments you had to make when returning to civilian life?
I don't know because I'm still doing it. I was 11 years old, sitting at the breakfast table. I grew up small community in Pennsylvania. There was more dairy cows in my hometown than people. And I was 11. It was 81, 82. Reagan was president. Just gotten the hostages back. Just bombed Libya. And I was amped up. I was reading about Pearl Harbor in school. And I told my mom I was going to the military at the age of 11. My only focus in life was to go to the military. Went to college, 4-year school in the military, went to the Citadel Military College, 23 years in the Army. All I've known is the military since I was 11. Well, except for the years from 16 to 18 when I was a wild child. But that's a whole other story. I think we've all got those stories. But all I knew was the military until I retired in 2016. And when I retired in 2016, I was adamant that I was going to become a civilian. I was going to learn the civilian life. I was going to hang out with my neighbors, and I was going to go and we were going to play golf together, and we were going to go down to the clubhouse and have a beer on Tuesday night. That lasted 5 months. And I got so tired of hearing about the neighbor's dog crapping in their front yard, the HOA checking on paint violations at the housing. It drove me insane. So I went back to my veteran community because that's where I was safe. So here I am 9 years after retirement, still trying to figure out how to be a civilian. It's not easy. It is not easy at all because for 23 years, every day I woke up, I wear socks now that are different. This is Venom. But every day I wear something different on socks because for 27 years, my socks were black, white, or green. That was it. There was no choice. I had no choice in what I wore every day. You want to talk about becoming a civilian, try to go pick out clothes to wear when you have no idea. Fashion for me was a pair of khaki polos and a polo shirt, or khaki pants and a light blue shirt. That was standard Army issue for an Army officer. Khakis and a button down. That's all I knew about clothes. So that was part of that civilian transition. There was no one to teach you that part of it. So you come out thinking you're all cool and hip, 47 years old, you retire, and you're going to fit the trend. Man, there is no trend. I wind up looking like a teeny bopper and everyone laughing at me, having to go back and redo it all. So the transition is hard, truly hard. But one of the cool things about that is just the people you meet, the stories you hear, the people that are willing to help you as you make that transition. And that's where you start building relationships. That's where the key components of that transition start to happen is in the community, as you serve the community, you get to know the community.
Okay, kind of going off of that, are there any resources that you found helpful while you were transitioning to civilian life that you think others would be interested in or would be helpful to them?
I can't answer that. Tactical Brewing in Baldwin Park. Resources. So the transition from being in the military to being a civilian, it really starts with understanding the civilian world, because it is different out here. I got lucky when I got out. I found a church where I met some really awesome people. They were not veterans. They were just local folks who had military folks in their families who really kind of adopted us. And through them, I was introduced to some organizations that would help build my circle. So there were some veteran organizations. There were some civilian organizations. One of the first places I ever found where I found a home was up Orlando, working at a member grocery for families below the poverty line. When I was working in a workforce development program, meeting those people who were just so thankful for the opportunity, it resonated with me based on my experiences and how much the military always felt thankful for the things we got when we were in. So getting to know some of the folks there, getting to know the mission there, being able to help them, it also helped because that gave me a sense of purpose. Because now I was helping part of the community with what they needed. I was helping them find ways to find their own path. So giving back to them so that they could be successful with what they were trying to do was a huge help to my development to learn about the civilian world. And then the veteran organizations, Camaraderie Foundation, 4 Block, the Veterans Beer Club. Veterans Beer Club's a real thing. You don't have to drink.
Did you say Veterans Beer Club?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I
a real
heard
thing.
bear, and I was like, okay.
Veterans Beer Club. We started it in 2018. VBC Orlando. You don't have to drink. I drink Diet Coke. But it's an organization, it's a club, it's a group where we all come together one night a month, and we get together as veterans and patriots and family members, and we literally just tell stories. And we feel good. It's like going to the VFW in today's modern world. So there's a lot of organizations that were out there to help that transition, but it still is tough. It is still a tough place to go.
How can local communities best welcome and support veterans who are returning home?
How do you support veterans returning home? It's really a unique question because when I returned home, I just finished 4 tours of combat. From 2003 to 2011, I spent every calendar year in Iraq except for 2007. So us coming home was different than today's young soldiers, young service members getting out. But from a community perspective, interesting title, community service to community. Because what I always talk about when I talk to organizations and talk to other communities, what veterans really search for is a way to continue serving. We want to be able to keep serving our community because we've spent our entire career, whether it was 2 years, 4 years, 18 years, 23 years, whatever that is, we've spent all that time focused on a unified mission, a command focus, a purpose, a task that had a unified objective and goal. When you get out, you don't have that structure, it's gone. You don't know what's going on. So from a community perspective, it's engaging with your veteran community to give them an ability to give back, creating projects and ways for them to be involved. And I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about Ocoee, 100 years old, amazing history out there in the pop-ups. Interesting, the volunteer firefighters built their own firehouse. I found that interesting reading that out there on the pop-ups. And the little police booth that went along with it. But it's looking for ways to give back. It's looking for ways that they can stay engaged with their community. There are veteran organizations that help with that, but from a city level is what do you do? How do you engage the veteran community to make them feel welcome? What do you do on Veterans Day that's not just, oh, thank you? It drives me nuts. Every year, and I get mad at veterans because every year on November 10th, what's the one thing you know you're going to see on Facebook? Nope. hey guys, here's the list of all the restaurants you can get free food. I did not join for free food. I did not join for free food.
I'm gonna send you that list this year.
Drives me nuts. We post it in the office so all of our student veterans know where it is. But it drives me nuts. I did not join for free food. I joined because I want to give back. So when you come to Veterans Day, what do you do to give back? How do you do that? Orlando City, Mayor Dyer has his Veterans Advisory Council. Jerry Demings has his Veterans Advisory Council that provides members of those councils with ways to give back to the community. The city of St. Cloud, when Chris Robertson just got elected mayor, he has actually implemented, finally, his own City of St. Cloud Veterans Advisory Council, where he has now engaged the veterans to come out and be part of the community and to find ways to be more interactive with the community. So what Chris is doing, building that organization, is fantastic. So for me, it's about veterans still want to serve. Where can you find a role in your community to let them serve?
So many of us encounter veterans in everyday settings, such as at the store, or at work. And we want to express our gratitude. We want to say thank you. But we feel uncertain about the best approach. What advice do you have on how to engage respectfully, and it really having some type of meaning?
It's a loaded question.
Come on, Kepner.
It's a loaded question. The one phrase that will drive me crazier more than anything else is thank you for your service. And I get it. You're just trying to say thank you for me. You're putting on the uniform and going out, raising your hand, defending the country. But my answer back to that is thank you for your taxes. Because if you don't pay your taxes, I don't get a paycheck. But my question back to them is, do you ever thank your doctor? Do you thank the EMT crew? Do you thank a police officer for what they do? You don't. No one ever thinks about it. They go in the doctor's office, they get checked out, they leave. And say, hey, doc, thanks for taking care of me. We were an all-volunteer force. We didn't volunteer to get thanked. Now, people are always surprised when I have this conversation because thank you for your service seems so innocent. Personally, I'm like, what do I do? And I always tell folks it's easier. Instead of saying thank you for your service, I appreciate your service. Because that's a whole different context. It's a different way of saying thank you, but just, I appreciate your service, or I appreciate your sacrifice. Because that I'm going to respond to with a thank you. Because that one I can handle. Sir?
Chris, I totally concur with what you're saying, and it has taken place with such a fervent frequency about it. I totally appreciate and understand what you're saying, and it has taken place in such a manner that it's almost cheapened the meaning. You know, I try not to condescendingly respond to the person who says, thank you for your service, but it's said almost vainly, to the extent that my thought in response to it was, do you have any idea from basic training through 23, 24, 25 years of wearing the uniform and doing the jobs that we've had to do, do you have any idea what it is that you're touching upon? My response to that thank you for your service is, that's very kind of you. Thank you very kindly. And most people look back like, oh my God, what is he? Is he insulted or is he upset or anything of that type? But mine is to say, stop and think. If you were in my shoes, how would it come across to you?
And that's just it. That's the whole thing about it is when we hear that, I react the same way. When you say thank you for my service, I don't want to be thanked for my service. I volunteered to do it.
I did what I
I was 11 years old and knew I was going to the Army. knew that's where I was headed. Actually had the recruiter, I only applied to one college, the Citadel. That was it. Did not know if I was going to get in. But just in case I didn't, I went and met with Sergeant James Seacrest, who was the Army recruiter for my hometown, and we had the contract papers already written up. All I had to do was sign them. And when I got my acceptance letter to the Citadel, I called Sergeant Seacrest and said, "Hey, boss, I got in. Can we rip up the contract?" Guy showed up at my house that night, ripped up the contract, and gave me an application for an ROTC scholarship to go to the Citadel, because I knew that's where I was going. So I volunteered to do this. You don't have to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank my wife, who endured 4 combat deployments, who raised my kid by herself, and then dealt with me when I came home and was going through all my stuff. Thank her. Appreciate me, but thank her.
I appreciate that, because my next question is, how do we support the families of military personnel and sometimes the veterans' families?
Well, that's the hardest part. So especially in today's world, obviously I'm a little bit older, a little bit longer in the tooth now.
A little bit.
Stop. Where, I said, I've been to combat, I've seen it, done it, all those things. Today's younger veterans, they haven't. They've done, the 6-month deployment to Kuwait, or not Kuwait, but Poland, to do the Ukrainian support missions. They've been over to Europe, but they're not facing the things that we faced 14 years ago. So when you think about families, I will tell you, it doesn't matter if it was my wife and son. My son today, he's 17 years old. Don't ever tell them he can see this. He's 17 years old. My son still has worse PTSD than I do from the amount of times I was deployed. So if I'm getting ready to go to a conference in my role now, we have to sit down and talk about where I'm going, how long I'll be gone, when I'll be back, or his anxiety will get to him, and it really affects him because of all the time that I was gone. So our families, even when we get out, and I will tell you, my wife has endured more than most people could ever endure with all the things that we've done. My wife's Canadian. When I was chief of ops for 18th Airborne Corps, she couldn't even go into my office because I was locked up behind the secret doors. So there was that separation, that divide. So when you think about the families, it truly is how we support them. And one of the neat things about UCF that we've done, July 2023, the state legislature passed the Collegiate Purple Star Campus Bill, which defined what a military student is. So now, at the collegiate level, a military student is defined as any student, active duty, student veteran, or family member who is connected to the military. And they are all included in what we do at UCF. So we don't just serve the student veterans, we serve all the family members, to the point where a year ago, every semester at the end of it for commencement ceremonies, we award stoles to our student veterans. It's really cool, American flag on it, red, white, and blue UCF, says veteran on the side of it. Awesome. Recognized when they go across the stage, super thing. A year ago, we said, you know what? No more. So I built a stole that said military student. So now at the end of every semester when we do our commencement ceremonies, every veteran and every family member is eligible to come in and get a stole at our stole ceremony that they can wear across the stage. I did not realize the impact of that until the first time we did it. And when Kim Fortenberry came across the stage to get her stole, graduate her undergrad degree, and I watched her dad, Command Sergeant Major, a rock star. Rob Fortenberry is a flippin' hero. When I watched Rob get up to take photos of Kim get her stole and turn back to look at him and could see him crying at the pride he had in his daughter receiving that stole, that told me we're doing the right thing and how we support our families. So it's making that extra effort to make sure, because it's not just the veteran, because truly we all serve. So it's making sure that the families are recognized as well.
What barriers do you think veterans and their families face in continuing education, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, and then on to come visit you at college?
Barriers to education. For your veteran, it's simple. You're old. You're old. It's your age. I retired in 2016, got involved in higher education, went to work at Valencia, running their Accelerated Skills Advanced Manufacturing program. I knew nothing about higher education. The last place I thought I was going to be was higher education. When I retired, I had every certificate FEMA offered because that's where I was going to work. I knew I was going to FEMA. That was my future. That was my last 5 years of my Army career were geared towards going to work for FEMA. To the point where my former chief of staff was the regional director for the Atlanta region and is the one that brought me in for the interview. So I had higher education. I had to figure out how to be a higher education person. So I went to school, became a student veteran. And you want to talk about barriers. Try sitting in a classroom full of students who were born after you commissioned in the Army. And then let that young 22-year-old student try to lecture you on her worldviews. It does not last very long before you respond. Now, I was lucky. I had the best professor in the world. Dr. Marshall pulled me outside. She said, Mike, never forget, you fought for her right to say whatever she wants to say. Now you got to teach her the reality. So you go into higher education for a veteran, it's one, you got the age. You know, most of your veterans today coming out, they've served 4 to 6 years. They've achieved some rank. They've been in charge of 18-year-olds. Now they're sitting in a classroom relying upon 18-year-olds to help them understand calculus. That is a huge mind shift. Time management. Time is a barrier. Because when you're in the military, time doesn't matter. Because from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, someone tells you where you're going to be, what you're going to wear, what you're going to be doing, who's in charge, and what you need. You get the education, no one tells you that. You got to make up your own schedule and figure it out. And that's hard. That is a massive barrier to what we're trying to do. To our student veterans, I will tell you now, at UCF, my number one concern right now is our retention rate, because I'm losing them after the first semester because they don't adjust. So we've created the veteran workshop that we do at the beginning of every semester to teach them how to be students so that they have a better understanding and we can raise our retention rates, because they stop.
How can we as a community support them?
How can we as a community support them?
Besides sending them to you, because I do that very often. I'm like, oh, you're a veteran? Go see Mike Kepner and tell him Kavita sent you.
As a community, how do you support them? You treat them like normal. You treat them like normal. You want to talk about barriers? You want to talk about how you support your veterans? I do a training at the university called Green Zone Training that talks about the characteristics of your student veterans. I guess the best way to put it. And one of the things we always talk about, because what is it everyone thinks about with veterans? You know, everyone goes back to John Rambo. They go back to Deer Hunter. They go back to, some of the Wild West stuff. And you're like, you got PTSD? Oh, you're crazy. And I love it because it's a great conversation to have, because that is a perception that people have. Oh, you've got PTSD. I'm going to back away. You're a little nuts. Does he own guns? What's going to happen now? Literally, those are conversations. Now, go try again, I'm not bashful about who I am. I am a Reagan Republican working in higher education. It is not always the best fit. but I love it. I've got a great boss, great leadership who allows me to be me. But when you're in there I'm giving this green zone training, I tell them all. We're about, 25, 30 minutes into it when I get to the PTSD conversation. And I start out like this. Is anybody scared of me? Has anyone found me threatening? You can't answer that.
Okay.
Does anyone think I'm going to come across the desk and bash their head into the wall? No? I have PTSD. I am a combat veteran who has PTSD. I know what my triggers are. I know what makes them happen. You don't have to worry about me coming in here with an AK-47 and blowing the room up. It's not going to happen. So you don't have to be afraid of veterans with PTSD. We know where our triggers are. And if you see someone in distress, talk to them calmly. Provide them care and love and support. Show empathy. If you're at UCF, call Mike, because I'll go pick him up in the golf cart and take him out to the Arboretum and sit at the picnic table and have a cup of coffee with him and bring him back down to reality. Because I've been that guy that self-medicated with a bottle of bourbon. Mark and I were great friends. There's many, many, many red tops that I've busted open. He knows what I'm talking about. A lot of people friends with Mark in this room. But how do you support them? You just show care, you know? And I hate to say it this way, but my wife described it to me one time. She's like, sometimes I just got to treat you like you're my old grandmother. And just be kind and be loving. And just remember that you're not all right. And sometimes that's all we got to remember. Because we don't want special treatment in any way, shape, or form. I don't ask for anything special. I don't request anything special. I am who I am. You know, I'm 100% disabled, but you won't find a disabled license plate on my truck. I can still walk. I can still move. We just want to be accepted and treated like normal folk. That's all. Like normal folk.
Like normal folks. Got it.
What is normal? That's a great question. Treat us how you want to be treated. We ain't different. I promise you. We have different experiences. We've experienced different things. And I say that, and I always laugh about it, because there are communities in Orlando that every night experience the exact same things I experienced in downtown Baghdad. Someone's being shot at, things are being destroyed, and people are in trouble. So there are a lot of similarities. And those are things we can capitalize on. But, you know, care, empathy, kindness, love.
I'm going to try. What role do you think community conversations like this play in bridging the gap between military or veterans and the civilian experience?
One of the most important things we can do is tell our stories. For the military to go out, the veterans, retirees to go out and tell our stories to the community is what's most important. So for me to be able to come out here tonight, and again, thank you all for the opportunity to come out here tonight to talk to you. But for me to be able to sit down and say, hey, I'm a combat veteran who has both combat and non-combat PTSD. And I'm not going to hurt you. It's okay. But to come out and talk about that, because you got questions, I will open my soul, I will bare my soul and tell you whatever you want to know. Because without us being transparent and telling our stories, you never fully understand what we've been through. And until you understand that, there's still a barrier there. So for me to be able to come out here tonight and talk to this group and say, yeah, I've been broken, but I'm okay. It's meaningful and it's impactful. I hope it's impactful.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any questions from y'all? Anybody?
Man, what a great question.
Does the Disney fireworks trigger you?
What a great, ironic. I have seen the fireworks a gazillion times, but always from the front of the castle or right behind the castle. One night, we were not watching the fireworks and we were leaving, and we were in Frontierland and wasn't paying any attention to it, so I couldn't really see the fireworks. But when that first boom went off, I panicked. It's exactly what it was. And I actually dove on the ground, hugged the wall, and it was real. And my wife and son were so caught off guard, they didn't know what had just happened. My wife very quickly figured it out, and she came over and laid on top of me and just started talking to me very calmly that I was okay, that everything was okay. And I literally, for the 18 minutes of those fireworks, I laid there beside that building with her covering me up until it was over and I could get up and walk out. That is the only time the fireworks have ever bothered me. Whatever the echo was back there, whatever the way that sound traveled back there. And I talked about it with a Disney guy later on, because he was he never heard that before. But he went back there and stood one. They say, I could see that. But I have never, ever, ever been trapped back there when fireworks go off ever again. I know when the fireworks are going to happen, so I am either on Main Street or in front of the castle, so that I can see. 4th of July doesn't bother me at all. The 4th of July, I'm the guy that blows up everything in my neighborhood, you know. I run down to the, Phantom Fireworks, where veterans always get 50% off their fireworks. Yo, for $300, I get $600 worth of fireworks. You know we're popping things off.
So you don't want the free food, you want 50% off.
For my
on your
fireworks.
Fireworks.
Yeah.
Got it.
Discount explosives is where it's at.
Facts.
Mike, I would like to just share with my fellows here a very similar experience that you've just talked about. We were engaged in a business meeting, dinner, whatever, over at Ruth Chris's one evening, and we had an enclosed booth. Someone had been employed as a photographer, and I served my first tour in Vietnam, 1966-67, as a combat infantryman, platoon leader, company commander. Took a bullet in January of 67, and everything that goes along with being an infantryman in the field for 12 months. But what was so amazing about this experience, all that time had gone by, and the individual who came into the booth and unexpectedly to me took a flash picture, and I went into another dimension of existence. I've never experienced it again since, but it was something that took me back to the first grenade that went off in my vicinity. And so I know exactly what you're dealing with. And it's just one of those things that we as veterans have to live with.
And that's just it. You don't know when it's going to happen.
You never know.
You just don't know. Like, there's no way in the world I thought walking down the road in Frontierland that I was going to hit the dirt and I was going to hover and I was just going to lay there in a ball and be afraid of what was going on. Same thing. You see that flash, immediately that's the grenade flash going off and you're thrown back into where you were. So yeah, you don't know what's going to happen, but the most important thing is like my wife did. She literally laid down with me and talked to me and made sure that I was okay. She didn't understand it. She just knew that her husband was in crisis mode, and she took care of me.
So I know we're close on time. I do want to get a picture of the board members with our guests before we take off. But it was interesting, we talked about the drop rate of your students coming back because of that executive functioning stance, right? And I work for a marine shipping company. So we have all the big vessels and all that. We have a huge veteran population that works for my employer because it's a easier transition, right? Because regulation in the military, when you're right back on a vessel, even though it's commercial, it's still a little bit of that routine. But how to support people in developing those executive functioning skills, setting your own schedule, setting your own routines, when for the better part of a decade or more, for a lot of them, they haven't had the opportunity to do that or the need to do that and develop what is truly a skill. I mean, that's one of the complaints we see even about kids coming out of school nowadays. They've never learned to develop these executive functioning skills for how do you do life. So I'd just be interested for tips that you may share with students that, as we look to the community and we look at supporting veterans, that these are areas they may be able to draw on.
Yeah, it's true. We did about a year and a half ago. I met up with a buddy of mine, RJ Jenkins. Lives right up here in Ocala. But RJ is the Director of Education for Columbia University's Center for Veteran Transition and Integration. And they have an entire curriculum built to help their veterans move into the civilian world. And what we created then, I had this, we call them napkin ideas. Something I started doing when I was deployed. I write ideas on the back of a napkin and give them to people and say, okay, what do you think about this? Driving home one night, and I called RJ and I said, here's what I want to do. I want to build the Veteran Success Workshop. 6 hours. Let's just start with 6 hours to bring in our student veterans before the semester starts to teach them the skills they need to be successful students, to teach them time management, to teach them how to read a syllabus and what that means. When I first started college, I didn't know what a syllabus was or the importance of understanding it. So I was the graduate student who'd been out of school for 24 years, almost 25 years when I went back. I was a graduate student who thought I could write 3 graduate level papers on a Sunday afternoon. Right. That was undergrad. That was easy. Boom, 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 done. 2 hours. Man, I opened up the first one and figured out about research and APA styles and references and all these other things that go into writing a graduate level paper. And I was like, okay, I can write 3 really crappy papers or 1 good one and beg for forgiveness with my other 2 professors. I wrote 1 good one. 1 professor understood. 1 professor did not. It wound up okay. But it's teaching them things like that. One of the neat things about having been a student veteran who struggled is I can use my own experiences with them to teach them where I failed. So the Veteran Success Workshop is something we started a year and a half ago, beginning of every semester, and literally talking time management, critical thinking, how to interact with the classroom. Because again, every student veteran is different in the classroom. I was the guy that sat in the back of the room. This room would drive me insane because there's so many doors. There's so many ways in and out, I can't control it. But in a classroom, I always sat in the back corner where I can control both doors coming in. Other veterans can't do that because they sit in the back, they can see their classmates looking at their computers and watching TikTok videos or watching Facebook, whatever, and not paying attention. So they've got to sit up front. So we talk about all those things to prepare them better. So one of the things that we're doing now, because we recognize that there's 2 transitions a veteran goes through. And I know, I'll be real quick. The first transition is from being a service member to being a student. So that's on the military to prepare you to get out and then for you to become a student. The second transition, which is where I spend a lot of my time right now, is from going from student to what I call a high-quality civilian employee. So now my mission is we're building a program called the second transition phase, where we're going to teach them how to become high-quality civilian employees and prepare them for what life looks like on the outside, because they have no idea. Veterans talk to each other in a different language, and we don't know how to talk to civilians. Like, we think we can, we are blunt, brash, and abrasive with each other. It's just who we are. You can't do that in the civilian world. Like, I learned that lesson the hard way when I worked at Valencia. And I was working with my staff down there when I took over as director, and I was like, running like I was a battalion commander. That did not work out very well. So there's things like that that we have to teach them to understand, which is what we're trying to incorporate now. So as you look at the same thing here, even if you bring on veterans into the city's staff, it's how you onboard them to make sure they understand the expectations, that it's not the boys club anymore, that it's not the barracks, that they are in a professional environment with expectations and guidelines that they have to adhere to. And when we put those kinds of things into orders and tasks, we get that. We understand policies. And if you can tell me the policy says this, I'm all in, because I can follow a policy. People understand I can follow a policy. Because if it's in black and white, I'm going to follow it. And I'm going to hold you accountable for your own policy. But that's kind of as you bring them into the civilian workforce, how do I do that the right way? So they feel safe, but they also understand they can't be 2 E4s in the barracks anymore.
All right, thank you. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it gave me enough to be dangerous, which is another problem. Any other questions?
All right, thank you. Mike, I do have one last question. Do you still make your bed, and can you still bounce a quarter off of it?
I will admit that when I get up in the morning,
Don't even finish that, Michael.
what? When I get up in the morning, my house is dark, but I do make my side of the bed before I leave. I pull the covers back, make sure it's under the pillows. I've done it my whole life. Saturday mornings, the bed's made.
Got it. He trained my son to make his bed, and best thing in the world. Thank you, Mike. Thank you all for having us.
Thank you, everybody.